So for problem number 42, again, I like to use the even numbered exercises in the book to illustrate the concepts, and then give you guys the odd numbers to work through as you check your understanding problems. But being consistent, we're establishing identities. We're just planning on showing here that the left side of this equation is equal to the right side. And when we do that, then we have established an identity. So we need to show that this is equal to negative cosine. And how are we going to do that? Well, since we have two terms, we have a 1 and then a minus and then a fraction. So it's kind of ugly right now. But what we really want to try to do here is simplify. There's a couple ways we can go about this. I'm kind of debating here. Yeah, let's do it this way. Since we have sine squared, so this is kind of a rule of thumb also, when we have only a cosine on the right side, we already have a cosine here. Can we find a way to rewrite the sine squared in terms of cosine? Okay, so hopefully by now you're familiar with sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. And if we want to get rid of the sine squared, we could subtract cosine squared from both sides. And then we could just make this substitution. And let's go ahead and do that. So we have 1 minus, and again, for sine squared, we're going to replace that with 1 minus cosine squared. Now, if you're good with your factoring, this should be no problem. But if you're not, this could be a major problem. Now, because look, 1 minus cosine squared, let's think of that as 1 minus c squared. Okay, and that right there, 1 minus c squared, that's a difference of squares. And the difference of squares factoring pattern would be that whatever's being squared here first goes first. Whatever's being squared next goes there. And then followed by a plus here and a minus here. Now, so that means that 1 minus cosine squared can be rewritten as 1 plus cosine theta times 1 minus cosine theta, all over 1 minus cosine theta. Now I put it in parentheses so it looks better. It looks more like that, and that's indeed what you get to do. You get to cancel out those factors because they are the same. And then we have 1 minus the parentheses 1 plus cosine theta. Remember what we're trying to make it look like. Keep your goal in mind. Distributing this minus sign, we get 1 minus 1 minus cosine theta. And the 1 minus 1 gives us 0. So we have 0 minus cosine theta. And we get exactly what we were trying to find, negative cosine theta.